All right, everybody, welcome to the second video in this little mini series where you get to follow along with me and check out my workflow on the Roland SP-404 Mark II. If you didn't watch the first video that I put out, check that thing out. In the first video, I show you how to go through and clean up your samples, add envelopes, set different levels, and just basically get everything organized to where you can start now putting effects and maybe arranging some stuff and getting ready to for like a live set or to put together a song that you're going to record on this sampler. So if you didn't watch the first video, this set of samples I have right here in what I call my alpha bank, which is my bank that I bring all my samples into, comes from one specific show, one of my favorite TV shows called Trailer Park Boys. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's super funny. This specific sample set comes from one episode only out of season 2. It's called A Dope Trailer is No Place for a Kitty, I think. And the reason that I only have a sample set loaded in here from that one episode is because I like to try and challenge myself a little bit to find everything I can to make different sounds and stuff like that. So I'll give you a little quick overview of what I've got in my alpha bank, and then I'll kind of show you where I've got everything out. So right here we've got the theme song. Right, I'm not going to make you listen to the whole thing, but someone knocking on a door.
What do you think, your probation officer?
Kitty, kitty, kitty. This guy's Paul.
Randy?
Do you want it in the box?
No. What?
Right, this scene right here, you can hear some drums. This is Julian and Ricky riding in a car. They've got their radio on. There's a song playing in the background on their radio, so it's got some cool drum beats in it, so I actually pulled those to sample the drums.
Do you want it in the box?
We got some kitty cat meows.
Yeah, they were licking the shit out of them.
Right, and I went through and I cut those up and cleaned them up and start and end points and blah blah blah. If you want to know how to do all that stuff, add envelopes to things and make things nice and smooth and organized, check out the first video. But the second bank is the B bank, and I've got that for bubbles, you know, so we've got cleaned and chopped up.
That's one fucking nice kitty right there.
Right, we've got
This guy's pulse is a little slow. Do you want it in the box?
Randy? What do you think, your Randy?
That's one fucking nice kitty right there. Kitty right there. Kitty, kitty right there.
right. C for cat meows. And then D for some drums, right? These are where I chopped up the original drums. And some door knocks. And then I've got everything down here for using, so. Right. And that's pretty much what I've got separated into my banks, okay? So today's video is going to be basically focusing on how to add effects to your sounds, how to resample some of your samples back into the machine, adding effects to them, and maybe making some manual adjustments to those effects to kind of add some cool dynamic features to them, and the settings for the effects and some pad settings within the machine itself. Right, there's a very powerful machine, but there's a lot of hidden features in here that can sometimes be really difficult to find if you don't already know where to look for them. It's sometimes you don't even know what to call them, so you know it's hard to search for them on the internet if you don't know what they're called. So, which is why I'm doing this little bit of a deep dive. Okay, hopefully this won't be a very long video. I said that about the first one; it ended up being an hour long. Sometimes I can get a little deep into things. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is our pad settings and where you can view the settings for each one of your pads, right? So when we're working with our pads, you can touch a pad, and if you look up here, it'll say P3, A2, bus 1, fix, and DC. DC is your power source. This does have batteries in the back. You can run it battery powered. Fix is your velocity. You can have fixed velocity, or you can have variable velocity, where it takes the strength of which you hit the pad and applies that with volume. I leave it on fixed. Bus 1 indicates which effects bus you're on, right? So does this too. If it's flashing, you're on bus 2. If you're solid, you're on bus 1. But you can see that it says bus. That's not changing because that has to do with the pad that you're on. If you look to the left of that, it says A-2. That's because we're in the A bank on A2. If I press another one, you can see it changes 3 to 1. And then over here you have P-3. That's the project that we're in. We're in project 3. So if you need to know what the settings of a pad are, you can come over here, touch the pad, and then hit the remain button, and under that it says current pad, and that's going to give you a bunch of information about the sorry, I didn't need to do that. It's going to give you a bunch of information, some of which you can change here, some of which you can't change here, right? So the pad color is white, right? The remaining time is negative 42 seconds. You're in stereo. Your original BPM's 120. Right, you can't change your BPM in this menu. Pad link is off, mute group is off, pitch is 0 semitones, and volume blah blah blah. So you can see that you have vinyl also, and that just basically means that if you're going to change the pitch while you're in vinyl mode, it's going to change the pitch by speeding up the sample or slowing the sample down, because that's how things were done in the days of vinyl. If you wanted a higher pitch sound, brighter sound, you just sped that part of the track up, and it would give you higher pitch sound. If you wanted a deeper sound, it would slow it down. The only problem with that is it changes the overall length of your sample. So if you have like a really tight rhythm and you speed up or slow down your track, it can really throw off the flow of the rhythm. So this is basically, you can change a few things, not everything, okay, but that's where you get a lot of information. Also, you can see that your storage available is 14 gigs. So now let's get into our pad settings real quick, okay. We're going to hold the shift, and we're going to come down here, and we're going to click pad 15, which under it says pad settings. That brings us into our pad menu. Now, for most of the menu navigation, okay, your third encoder, farthest to the right over here, is going to be what changes through your tabs, okay, and your farthest to the left, not counting volume, is going to change. You're going to drag down through there, or in most cases, this encoder right here where it says push to enter, this is how you're going to pick and select different things, okay. Just remember, if you're having a hard time, sometimes I get into a menu where this works, sometimes I get into a menu where this works. That's just odd. So the first thing we're going to look at here under our pad settings is our trigger span. Trigger span is how many times you can trigger a pad within a certain span of time. If I take this and I turn this all the way up to 10 and I leave it there, I'm going to be able to trigger the pad pretty quick. Let's find a pad. Now I'm tapping that pad like crazy, and we're not getting many. Now watch when I turn this trigger span down to 1. You can hear how the trigger is sped up dramatically. Now by default, when you load a sample in, I think the trigger span is set to like 4. And that can help a lot of times with keeping you from double triggering something, where if you're trying to play or re-record something and you hit it, you don't accidentally re-trigger the pad, because that can really mess up your workflow. I keep it at 1. I like the sharpness and I like the reaction of it. You know, curve type, threshold, and gain, you can leave those alone, or you can mess with them on your own time. I don't, which is why we're not going to get into it, because it's not what I need to do right now. So let's come over here, and we're going to turn the third encoder a little bit until we get to LED. So LED brightness 8, and the glow is 8 also. So the glow is when the pad's not being used. If I put my hands over my light right here, you can see how some of the pads are brighter and some of them are just barely glowing. Okay, that's your glow. So if I come over here and I turn my glow up to 10, or I change, let me try and change that. See how the ones that are barely lit, like that low glow, it changes that, right? That's when they're not being active, and the LED brightness is on the pads that are active. You see what I'm saying? So if you have your LED glow set to 8 and you turn your brightness down to 1, they're all going to be the same as 8, right? Because it's not going to take it below. Okay, so you can turn it 8, you can turn it 10. Sometimes I'll turn it up if I'm working in a brighter environment. That's completely up to you. The third option here is pad LED mode. So this is a fun one. So this is going to be the default situation for your pad, right? And it's going to be what color your pad glows, right? So you can see here we have orange, green, and blue. Now I'm going to make this kind of quick for you if I can. Hopefully I'm a little concise with it. So each of your effects buses, right, you have 4. Okay, you have 2 that you can actively change and assign, and then you have buses 3 and 4, which are your main out buses, which are either always on or always off, and depending on your routing, they cover everything or certain things. So right now we have the pad LED mode set to bus. And that means that if you have a pad assigned to bus 1, it's going to be orange. If you have a pad assigned to bus 2, it's going to be green. If you have a pad that's not assigned to anything, it's what we call dry. It's going to be whatever color you set your pad to. Okay, so let's leave it at bus real quick. Okay, and let's move over here to bus color. So you can see bus color 1 is default, right? That's orange, and I can show you. We can change that, right, to whatever we want. It's going to ride through the rainbow just like any kind of LED toy you've ever had. By default, it's orange. Bus 2 is the same way. You can see right here, right? It's also going to cycle through. And also, I'll give you another cool piece of information. If you're turning this encoder knob and you're getting really tired of it, hold down your shift button. And then as you do it, it'll go by 10s. Right? So whereas it might take you 30 seconds to manually cycle through, that's painstaking. You can just hold the shift button and that will automatically let you go by 10s. And then down here we have our dry color. I like this like light blue teal, but that's down here on the third one, right? Color 22, I guess. And that's when there's no bus assigned to it. So our last option here is our pad color. Now, if you want to, you can change each one of your pads to be a specific color based on where it is and what it is. I know some people that have their drums, like all their drum samples red, their vocal samples purple, their, one shots to be white, whatever it is, and that can be adjusted here. Okay, and it's really important that you take the time to set your pads up the way you want. Don't rush, because if this thing is customizable to make you comfortable so that you don't have a hard time playing it. Right, so we can come in here and we can change the pad number 1 to whatever we want. Let's hold shift. Let's turn it all the way to like purple. Right, there we go, 122, that's purple. And you can do that with all of your pads. Okay, pad 4, pad 3, whatever. So there's one thing that you need to be aware of, though. I'm going to show you actually there's an explanation as to why all these are orange, even though we just changed the pad color. And I'll jump into that now, and then I'll follow back up with what's important about those pad colors. So the reason that everything is orange right now is because by default, when you load in a new sample, it's automatically routed to bus 1, which is over here. So you can see we have bus 1, bus 2, and you'll see down here it says bus 3 and 4, and that's off. Now, if you're having some weird problems with your effects, like all of your buses are on bypass, but for some reason you're getting like an echo effect, it's because there's an effect on your main out effector, which is 3 and 4. So the way that you can turn that off from this menu is you're going to push your bus button, you're going to click this encoder, and you got to be kind of quick because otherwise the screen will turn off. But if you hold that encoder and then use your thumb or whatever to push the bus effect button, you can see it turns it off and on. So bypass means that there's nothing on, and then off obviously means that those main outs are off. So if you're ever having an issue, like I've had many times in the beginning working with this thing where I'm like, what is that? Why is there like a vinyl static happening? Why is there a reverb happening? Everything's off. Well, it's not. And then we'll jump into our main out effects in a few minutes. But so as you can see, all of these are orange, which means they're all automatically by default assigned to bus 1. So how do we turn that off? Very simple. We're going to grab our remain button right here, current pad button. I'm going to move off to the side. You'll see that they're all orange, right? When you press the remain button, the one that's flashing is the information available for that pad. So check this out. As I hold that remain button and I touch all of these, it's going to enable or disable effects for that pad, right? Because by default, it's all automatically set on for pad 1. I mean, for bus 1, for each pad, it's going to be orange by default. So my favorite thing to do is go and turn all of them off. Why are they all orange right now? I wanted you to follow along with me. This is something I didn't know. I think it's really weird, and maybe there's a setting that I don't know about that automatically, you know, sets it dry, because I like to keep mine dry unless I want an effect on it. And I like to go in here and go to each one that I have, you know, pads assigned to and turn it all off. Right? I don't have anything in E. So if you'll notice that when let's come back to A. If I hold that remain and I press it, it just turns from orange to blue, but, you know, bus 2 was green. Why isn't it changing to green? Well, that's because over here, see how our bus effects light is just solid? That means that we're currently manipulating the pad for bus 1 because we are on bus 1 and the bus select. So if you want to manipulate the pad to enable bus 2 effects on it, you need to have bus 2 selected, which for memory purposes, if it's flashing, it's on bus 2. If it's solid, it's on bus 1. So now all of my dry, no effect pads, I can now remain, and all are going to turn green. And I can come over here to bus 1 with those, and I can also, I can also turn some onto 1 and some onto 2. Or if I meant to have 3 on 1 and not 2 and it's there, I can just do that. But then when I turn it off, it's not going to go back to green. It's just going to go back to dry. So what I'll do is turn all of those off. So that's something that plagued me a little while, and I know I get kind of drawn out into this, but at the same time, I think it's really good to go thorough. I'm going to do my best to add like the little marks in the timeline so you can jump to these things. I think that's really important. Now, in the event that you want to shut your bus off completely and mute them all, right here on the same bus button, you're going to hold Shift. If you look below, which if I haven't said it already, sometimes I think it's self-explanatory and sometimes it's not, and that's my apology. If you hold the Shift button, that's going to activate the function under the pad. So Shift, now the buses are off, right? Bus 1 and 2 is muted. The reason that it's flashing 1 and 2 is because if you have bus 3 and 4 on, those are still going to pump out. Okay. So we've talked about bus 1, we've talked about bus 2, we've talked about pads and how to assign different pads to those buses. Now it's important that we talk about the main effect and how to route them. Okay, so for demonstration purposes, I'm going to find 2 pads real quick.
Do you want it at the bottom? Yeah, they were licking the shit out of them.
What do you think your probation officer? What do you think your probation?
So we'll use 4 and 7 here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take pad 4, I'm going to hold remain, and I'm going to turn that on for bus 1. Okay, and then for bus 1, I'm actually going to add just a delay, right?
What do you think your probation officer?
I'm not going to change it. It doesn't matter. We're just doing this for demonstration. All right. So for pad 7, that's also Mr. Leahy. I'm going to come over here and hit, right? We're flashing. And then I'm going to come over here and link that pad to, you guessed it, pad 2. So when I'm in bus 2, you'll notice that see if I come over here, you see that's also solid and that's solid. Check this out. When I assign an effect, right, like the resonator, that's going to be flashing. So you can always remember on this thing, if it's flashing, you're probably in the second or number 2 of whatever it is, or there's an additional function. So it'll help you kind of go back and forth. So let's see what that sounds like just for fun. Right, standard resonator, kind of pipey, kind of echoey. Sounds like someone stuck their head in a tube and they're talking to you. So now we have those two. Let's talk about buses 3 and 4. Okay, our master out, as I called it. I'm sure that's not what it is, but I call it master. So we're going to go into another shift menu down here on pad 16, EFX Settings. Boom. Now we are in the routing section. Okay. So basically what this means is, and I'll have to remember this, this is really confusing to me, right? Well, so this is the favorite section, right? So if you have, there's some favorites preset in here where you can scroll through. Right now you can see that bus 3, this is another thing I didn't understand because it's kind of wonky. If you look, it says bypass, bypass, and there's a little dotted line going to bus 3 and a little dotted line going to bus 4. Okay, so if I change this, didn't mean to do that. If I change this all the way back to favorite, I guess 0, you'll see that it's just on bypass, right? This one puts a compressor on and then bypasses effect 4. This one puts a warm saturation and a 303 vinyl on. But if you look over here, you see how the arrow line is coming bus 3 and then bus 4. That means that your sound is going to come in and it's going to go through bus 3, and then whatever the sound in bus 3 is, whatever that resulting sound is, it's also going to go into bus 4. Now, if you look at this, you can see that your main sound is your pipe down here, and that's going to come in, and bus 1 is going to go to itself, and then bus through is going to feed into bus 3 that feeds into bus 4. Or you can click your encoder, and you can have bus 1 go separately into 3 and 4, and then bus 2 also go separately into 3 and 4, right? Or you can have bus, and the reason why is so that you can have one bus that's just pure by itself, and then you can have another bus that feeds into 3. So you can effectively have 3 different effects for one original sample sound. So let's see here. So we're on, that's bus 2 to 3 and 4, warm saturation and vinyl. So let's check that out. First off, let's go back to bypass. Let's hear it. Right, now let's go ahead and do a warm saturation and a vinyl, and let's see what that. You can hear that. So everything that's going through. Right. But if I come over here and hit 4, you're also going to get that 3 and 4 because it's going to feed through that. See how bus 1 is feeding into bus 2 and 3 and 4? So you can effectively get those 3 buses together. Now, if you want to just have each bus go into 3 and 4 by itself, you click that button. See how the sound changes on that bus 1? And that's because right now, the bus 1 sound itself is the delay, which is that and then it's going through a resonator, then it's going through a downer, then it's going through a lo-fi. Now it's going through a delay into a downer, into a lo-fi, and skipping that resonator. Right, no resonator, resonator. So that was something that took me a little while to get into, and I really wanted to make that clear in this, and I wanted to take a couple extra minutes there. So that's really important that you set your buses up appropriately, right? Because otherwise you'll have a lot of weird, unnecessary, angry times trying to find out why your effects are doing weird things. So let's figure out how we can change our bus 3 and 4 to different things instead of just our favorites. Now, just for giggles, I'll show you what a different pad sounds like that's not assigned to an effects bus. Right, you hear that?
Yeah, they were licking the shit out of them.
No noise, right? And that's because the
Yeah,
sound
they're licking the
here,
shit out of them.
right, is a dry sound, which means it's not going through bus 1, it's not going through bus 2, so it's not going to be going through 3 and 4 because all this does is take bus 1 and 2 and pump it through 3 and 4.
Yeah, they were licking the shit out of them.
So if I come in here and I turn this pad off, which I think I have to exit the menu, even though we just heard that, so we'll turn that off and get back into our effects pad, right? It's all still the same.
Randy?
And we just have our normal sound. So that's something you need to be aware of too. If your pad's dry and it's not going through bus 1 or 2, it's not going to go through 3 or 4 either. Okay, very important to remember. So let's get back out of here and let's go ahead and turn our bus back on, and then we'll go back into our effects, and then we'll use our third encoder here. And so now we have bus 3. So bus 3 is already preset to downer because that's one of our favorites. So here's where it gets cool. Now you can adjust all the effects, right? Depth, rate, filter, pitch. And if you want to adjust those things, you just come down here and you can use this encoder. Wait, let's see here. Let me go down. I'll click that. Oh, wait. Oh my God, stop. Is that it? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Okay, so sorry. Like I said, there's a lot happening, and sometimes I forget stuff. So these 3 knobs are going to adjust these 3 settings, 1, 2, and 3. The depth is obviously how much of that sound is going through. Right. And then your pitch down here and your resonance. So that's what you're going to get with that. I think yeah. So you can also, let me find one that's got more settings. Right, and you can obviously change them here by going through the effects types. There's a lot of effects, and I'll show you how to get to the main effects, but I wanted to show you how they work and how they, route before showing you the immense amount of effects this thing has. So let's just do filter drive. Yes, or cutoff. So there you go. So that's bus 3. I'm not going to dive too much into it because I can be here all day. Let's get back out of there. Whoop. Let's get back out. So now I'm going to go out of bus 3. Same thing with bus 4. I can go to other. Right. So if you see this flashing right here, it says Direct FX 1. All right. That's these different auto buttons right here. And I don't know why you would want to. I guess for the sake of saving time. My brain won't let me do it. But you can take these different ones and you can change what it goes to, right? So filter drive, I can change that to whatever I want. I can change it to a stopper. I can't do that because if it says filter drive and I click it and it's not filter drive, I might have a mental breakdown. If you can do it, that's awesome. You're better than me. So let's go over here to other. So the mute bus, here's your settings for your effects, okay? So the mute bus, right, all or bus. And that means that if you have bus 1 selected and you hit the shift mute bus, it's only going to mute the bus that you have selected. That can be helpful, right? Input effects. If you have something coming in for the input, whether it's through a USB-C cable or main ends or a mic or something like that, that's where this is going to be. And this has a very huge cache of really awesome. I mean, you got vocoders, harmony, Juno, downer. This thing has a lot of effects. It's one of my reasons it's my favorite, right? The input bus by default is bus 1, okay? You can change it, bus 2, bus 1, or you can do the input bus to dry. And then your dry routing, right? You can put it through 3, you can put it through dry. And you're more than welcome to You're more than welcome to deep dive into each one of these settings and figure out what they're for. They're pretty self-explanatory, right? Your dry routing, it's either going to be dry or you can route it through bus 3. Right? So say you've got a dry pad that's not going to any bus, you can send it to bus 3 if you want. I keep it to dry because, well, I set it to dry because I wanted it to be dry. But there's so many things. MFX top, I'm sure that has a thing, and I think what happens is when you press this the effects button up here, the MFX button, to select your effect, I think it takes you straight to scatter, which is like the first, yeah, so the very first one. Now let's get into the multitude of effects. I'm not going to go through the effects, at least not right now, because this video is already probably longer than I want because I go a little more in depth than I need to. But this is all information that I had a hard time finding, which is why I'm going so in depth. So let's say that I want to pick an effect out for bus 2, right? And I don't want it to be filter. I don't want it to be, you know, I don't want it to be any of the ones that are right here. So I can hold this button. I'm going to show you something cool too. So pushing the button once turns it on. Pushing the button a second time turns it off. You can see if it's flashing, it's on. So here's another cool thing. This remain button works on a lot of these different screens. So you can see how the screen clears and goes back to its default. Right? Oh, wait, let me get back out of here. Let's see. Yep, there we go. So as you saw just now, if I press this button, it'll turn on that bus 2 scatter, and after a second it goes back to our default screen. But if I hit the scatter and I hit remain, it's going to stay on until I change it to something else. That is really helpful to know, right? Sometimes you can keep a screen on that goes off by hitting the remain button. Otherwise, you might want to throw this thing through a wall. This is my second one, okay? If there's a little arrow under some of your settings, that means that either by clicking the encoder or holding the shift button, you can get more settings. Check that out. So right here, type 5, and it shows you a little arrow. That means there's more, right? And once you get there, you hold that button down and you turn the encoder, and it will give you whatever settings are available. So that's single speed, that's double speed. I think we're still on bus 2. Right, so that's the scatter type. Right, very cool. I love the effects on this thing. I pipe my guitar through this all the time, and then I pipe it through a reel-to-reel and a Kai reel-to-reel because it makes it really cool. So if you hold the MFX button when you turn it down and then you turn your encoder over here, you can see that you've got so many different effects here. Okay, there is on the Roland website, you can get the manual if you bought this secondhand, and there's literally a part in the manual that tells you what each effect does. If you got this thing, go get it. Go get it and sit down and read it. You're going to really want that. There's so many cool things here. Ring modulation, there's a bit crusher. I love the bit crusher. There's overdrive, there's wah-wahs, there's phasers, there's a chorus and a Juno chorus and a reverb. So, I mean, if you're really into it, you could put a reverb on 1, then you could put a reverb on 2, or a chorus on 2, and then a Juno chorus on 3, and then a flanger on 4, and you could have some really cool sounds. Don't forget, you can, you know, kind of slice all these things together. There's a slicer, one of my favorites. Right? Let's get back in there. Oh, we're on bus 2, so let's turn this on to bus 2. Right, slicers are really cool. Right, so we got legato. We could turn that to slash. We could turn the shuffle from 70 to 0, and we can turn the sync on. Sync just means you're synced with your BPM. you'll see a lot of people that, you know, a lot of good DJs, when they have that slicer effect happening, this is kind of where not really where it comes from. You can do this in software and stuff, but this is a really cool place to put it for vocals and stuff like that.
Do you want it in the box?
Like,
The box?
Oh, what do
Do you want it in the box? Do you want it in the box? Do you want it in the box? Do you want it in the box?
yeah. So there you go. So that is how you set up your effects, how you set your settings for each pad. Okay, how you can route your different effects through the different places you want them to be, how to turn them off, how to turn them on, etc. That should be, you know, all you need to know for setting your effects up. And then don't forget, this is a sampler. Okay, so you can literally take a sound, resample that sound with an effect on it into a different pad, and it essentially becomes a dry sound, and then you can add other effects on top of that. You know, I can show you, let's see here, let's go to bus 1, let's, right, is that on there? Yeah, so let's turn that on. Oh, what a weird.
That's one fucking nice kitty right there. That's one fucking nice kitty right there. That's one fucking.
Right. Once again, being silly.
That's fucking nice kitty right there. That's one fucking kitty right there. That's one fucking nice kitty right there.
All right, cool. So that's there. So if I wanted to have that effect into a pad, but I wanted to also add another effect onto that, all I have to do is hit my resample button. That allows me to pick a pad for my new sound to go into, sorry, not come from, and I'll just say 15. Now it's waiting for me to input microphone sound or whatever through a threshold or whatever through an input. It's just waiting for some kind of noise to let me know it's time to start. So what I'm going to do is, and then I'm going to hit record when I'm done, and now pad 15, although it has an effect on it currently, like I said, it's by default, we'll hit remain, we'll turn that off. Right, now you can see we have no effects happening. Right, and now I've got that on, so now I could also come through and let's say I wanted to add some, I don't know, a nice reverb in there. So what I would do is, let's see if I can turn that up. Hall 1, the time, let's turn it up, level 50. Yeah. Right, just for the sake of doing it. And now I can do the exact same thing. I can resample into pad 14 and play pad 15 that has that, you know, delayed first and now a new reverb. Wait for the reverb to finish. Hit the record button, and now I have a dry sound once again that has all those effects on it. So you can literally stack every single effect that you want to out of here. This would be a perfect time to show you the delete function, okay? So if I want to delete some stuff, I can hit the delete key, okay? It's going to let me pick as many of these pads as I want. I'll just hit 14, 15. I'll hit delete again. Ta-da! And just to show you some moving some pads around and stuff like that, right? There's a couple other ones, right? If I wanted to copy a pad, like let's say I want to have a pad that has an effect and then a dry pad also, okay? Let's hit copy. Pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to touch 3, and then I'm going to touch 14, and then I'm going to hit copy again. Boom. Now 13 and 14 are the same. Okay, same thing. Delete, delete. And then also you can exchange pads, right? That's down here on pad 5. So I can hit shift and I can hit the exchange. And then it's going to ask me which pads I want to switch, right? So let's exit out of there and look.
Yeah, they were licking the shit out of them.
Right? Let's say I don't want those pads to be there. Let's say I just want to, you know, kind of move them around. So I can hit shift and I can hit exchange. And I could say I want this pad to be exchanged with, I don't know, this pad. And then I just hit the copy button. And now,
Yeah, they were licking the shit out of them.
it's as simple as that. So you can reorganize your pads once you sample in. You're not stuck with it being there. One thing I've never tried for some reason, and I'm going to try right now, I don't know if I can move a pad to an empty space. Well, yeah, you can. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to. So you can organize all your pads. Okay, and I think that's pretty much as I'm going to go through with the effects. We can talk about the input effects, but that's pretty self-explanatory. It's the effects added to an input. And it has its own list of special effects too. There are more effects for input that are separate from the effects you have to play out of your output and stuff like that. So, you know, play with everything, get to know it really good. And now that I've shown you how to go through and not only set up your pads, set up your colors, set up your effects, and organize everything, I'm going to go ahead and cut the video here. The next one I'm going to go through is how we can use the different pattern modes to kind of orchestrate and set up our beats and stuff like that, how to use the metronome and stuff. So if you like this one and you haven't seen the first one, I'll put a link for that. Like I said, I'm about to make the third video when I get a chance, and then that'll have, you know, some sequence stuff and how to change things and loops and all that good jazz. So, all right, hopefully you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next video.